Tariq Toure is a author and award-winning poet from West Baltimore. What is it about? I love people from Baltimore. Every time I meet someone from Baltimore, I'm checking for him. He is known as the Amiri Baraka of our era. He's the author of two poetry collections, and his work has been featured on Salon and Washington Post and Sapelo Square, among others. Black Seeds, his debut collection of poetry, was awarded Best Poetry Book of Baltimore in City Paper Magazine. Regarded as the Amiri Baraka of our era, Tariq is winner of the HBCU Top 30 Under 30, as well as the Huffington Post Noor 25. And so, without further ado, we pass it over to Tariq Toure and his work and wisdom.
اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم. How did I get here? Well, that's God's intentions. As far as drip, they'll say Toure always brought the water with him, carved a lane in this game. That's a large incision. Don't know much, but I can tell you what a problem isn't. Burning the stage down, not a hard decision. Want my stripes? It's going to take a couple scars to get them. Our 45, your open mic, no Rod and Pippin, literary shots. We leave large and livers when every bar is a baptism. The applause is different. I'm a product of Malcolm calling out to Allah in prison. My mama Maisha moving through the mirage in prisons. Dear father, Imam Malik show me where the art is hidden. I'm a griot out the mud. You better guard your business. Been everywhere. Grab a globe and start to spinning. But the Baltimore poets are liable to carve your kidneys. When you thought it's the last model, we enlarged the engine. So my fate is on stages, fade in anything under God's dominion. That's a fact. I see they've had the wrong opinion when the difference between us is clearly yards to inches for the money. Well, that's an odd incentive. When the smoke been free, you get your pulse paused for pennies. Forrest Gump with gumption, you better guard your winnings. I've been training my whole life to swing far in innings. I'm at bat. You think I'm going to let him catch Tariq slipping? When my name means starter, room on Mars is plenty. Let's dig a little bit deeper. I'm from where they let the long nose ring like Rodman, with blacked out cars skirt like Scotland, and Hershey Topman. I'm at work, just watch when I get these verses clocked in. I'm a poems poet. I'm a locksmith. I hold keys from the kingdom to the coroner's office. And as important as art is, to properly perceive what was poured in this artist, we have to begin by exploring the coffins. The first lock I ever picked was to a funeral home to see why so many kings were taking two to the dome, why we were recruiting the chrome. And my OG said, no way in hell could we do it alone. So lo and behold, I was birthed and immersed in a tradition of transmitting the mission to the masses. So the muscle memory bank is lifting for the mass and lifting up the caskets so the world can never get it backwards. I'm one of them kids that flipped up on the mattress, then was told to slip up in them classes. Don't give up till it's mastered. Grip up on the masters, mix it with knowledge itself and switch the whip up on the masters to only climb the mountain if it's massive. I'm a walking, talking, marching order to be a margin forcer. So I'm spitting continents and dissolving borders. I'm a pen pirate on ink oceans. Guard your water. I'm one of many oral orcas, and we've been wailing on pages since the Middle Passage poured us. Sort of. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. This next poem is in context about mass incarceration, which Maulana Malcolm X fell victim to. But it's also a reflection on when I finally read Khalif Browder's story. And I decided that I wanted to illuminate his story, but so many other Black people who have just been churned in and out of the system like a conveyor belt. I got caught browsing through the Browders in my browser. Now I thought out of the thousands of prison houses that are crowded, how many of those shackled by hands and feet are just like Khalif, just like Corey Wise, and got caught up in the street. Even if they were caught up in the streets, there's a stage full of Ray fools caught in this bind. Wrong signal, wrong signs, wrong country, wrong time. And no doubt, depending on the DA, the punishment for the crime is bound to be cruel and unusual. Ain't no slaps on the wrist, they'll hand you a whole funeral. They was throwing 20 and a nickel for pumping some nickels like my folks on boats and planes. I guess this country is fickle. We just confronting the issue. 15 for a Glock, we can all buy stock in the same companies that's hustling missiles. So if we gonna cut through the BS, let's cut through the tissue. Believe it or not, every day is a Dred Scott. The birth to prison highway ain't never been gridlocked. Every hour there's a Browder. Every minute there's an Emmett. This system is deep. My people was deep in it. We always knew which way the law shifts, because they still leasing out convicts. Every city's a car lot. Every hood is an auction. They lease a youngin' like they lease Nissans. $80,000 a prison bed. They can't see the weapons. And that's just the stipend subsidized by the state. Every bar of soap, every tube of toothpaste, all line their pockets down to the child with metal trays. Crime pays. Blind pays. Your hands can't free what your eyes can't see. They hide the horror in the laws behind some applause. Before your jaw can touch the floor, another shackle ankle stampede. You damn right Uncle Sam need him. Because who else gonna do the damn bleeding? And they don't even need a square reason. When us breathing is free air is treason. Our skin is probable cause and effect. You get caught with this tone, you too might be calling collect. Margin for errors the shoestring, don't fall out of step. Don't blink for a second, they'll send you up north in a sec. And I can't name a jail cell that ever had buyer's remorse. I could fill the 7 C's with the tears of black mothers crying in court. Mama mortgaged the house for the bail. They charged him with 7 counts for a sale. When was touching down that the docks daily amounts to a well. It all amounts to a well. With the path he was hitting, we had to hit him to hell. Or the drug war is the prerogative. Zero tolerance. Cuff him by any means or use a hollow tip. See what the problem is the chances are so slim of coming out of it that our whole life is damn near hanging upon a scholarship. Or there's something larger at stake. Maybe the larger the prison population, the larger the stakes. Because whether it was textbooks in that backpack or it was harboring weight, we still had to fall to the fate. The question was always, who else gonna pick this cotton? Who else gonna fill these cots when they needing some more profit? And ain't too many options. When we the only option, you could be pitching rocks in, loading the whole Glock clip, or you could be walking to work. Right before you clock in, let a couple cops spin. See how fast you be locked in. I look at my son and can't help but see the facts between us. That it could easily be a glass between us. So I'm on my knees every night. I never know when my time's up. I guess to be a black man in America is to live every day in a lineup. Alhamdulillah. During the slave revolts in South America, one of the Mujahideen, the Muslims from Western Africa, they found an amulet, and on it, and in that amulet, he had on a piece of paper written the dua of Ibrahim that he made when he built the Kaaba, that his lineage would keep Islam with them in their hearts, souls, and minds. And Ibrahim making that dua, I always reflect on as being answered with this miraculous gathering of Islam that has happened here in America on these shores from our ancestors. So this is related to that prayer of Ibrahim. The kings of old used to pray that lineage grows so the kingdom and kingship could keep an infinite flow. Sons, crown jewels on iron fists, infinity stones. Any slight threat to legacy equal the slit of a throat. They'd reign for centuries off children alone. One power in your tribe, count the kids in your home. Rule by sword and umbilical cord are given with both. And these kings thought that they were given the most. Civilizations carried on in the cyclical flow. Dynasty after dynasty, they died defending the throne, preserving their reign with every minute they own. And mankind's preoccupation with dominion could lead one to the opinion that if our life is measured in inches, then we spend our lifetimes inching towards domination and dissension. Has anyone ever asked God for any different? I should mention that a black woman once ran between the mountains in the desert with an infant crying out, dried mouth, heavy sweat, and with no food in sight. She scouted every direction. The heat grew, they couldn't last an hour in this weather. Then outpoured a stream of water flowing in the distance. She drank her fill to stop the wailing of her infant. The well of Zamzam is born, a miracle in minutes. Hajar and Ismail survived, but Father Ibrahim was missing. And upon return from his sojourn, he would move to the place where he learned the Kaaba would be built. And his concern was that this family of theirs would one day grow to serve the Lord Most High and raise hands to the sky for Allah to never let the light of Islam die. For as long as their lineage stays alive, on and on, for a millennia they would thrive. Not for richest power to the mountain line, not for sovereignty over what's under the sky, but that sujood be established when he died, that the qulub be attached to the eye. He prayed for generations of prostrations, showed us how sincere niyyah can turn nation, paved the path for success in seeking salvation. I'm standing here as a manifestation. We're gathered here as a representation. How is this related? Small illustration. My pops was dealing dimes a dean up on the dope strip. You can still see the lines of fiends getting their nose hit. Allah still raising odd degrees. We never know if people like them never bent their knees and exposed this reality, this path we call Islam. One single believer starts the cracking of the dam. When this nation was being built by the cracking of the lash, when Reagan was placing the crack up on our hands, those same palms were the same ones happening to have sincere prayer and sincere cries. Look within those layers within their lives, because within their lies, a truth so pure it would singe our eyes. Tell me how within our time, as enemies within their lines, Allah will raise another people to defend his signs, delivering us from evil until the mission dies. Everything that's happened has happened for a reason. Every single action has mattered for this meaning. With a result of prayer mats upon the cement, the divine outcome of prayer is cast into the ether. What it means, we don't just happen to believe, but this is the purchase path of Ibrahim, from the very hands of Ibrahim, from Philly to Philistine, from Mali to Manhattan. Take a look at what can happen. This path is a jewel. Ain't no happening to have it. It only happens if you grab it and hold it so tight it starts to fashion into granite, and that stone becomes a mountain, and that alone becomes a fountain, and then in droves we drink the ounces. The spring that springs forth will have many stories to tell. When they ask how the children were saved, we'll have no choice but to point to the well. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. We make a dua that Allah changes our hearts. And so one of the attractions, the magnetism that Malcolm X has for us is that his heart changed the very millisecond that Allah would bring him a sign. And we can only aspire to be able to have a heart that changes like his. So this poem is dedicated to him, but more so that ability in his heart to change, that purity that no matter what he went through, no matter how dark it got, he was still able to change on the drop of a dime. I was told the truth out of season might get you killed. Well, Malcolm died in the winter. And I don't know what's colder than taking gunfire in the center of the same heart that beat like a djembe drum for his people. My Umi says they'll always come for the people who dare have the audacity to proclaim us equal. So his sinister sudden death is yet another sequence in a sequel. Better yet, a chapter in a saga. He lays in the path of other martyrs. And I wish that this was some abstraction unthought of, that the bullets that claimed him had no name. But if you know, as he knew, without a molecule of doubt, that is not the nature of this game. When his soul was placed upon this plane, he painted with his entire life as a canvas and placed it in a frame. His truth still lingers. His truth still remains. I can taste it when it rains. But for abolition, they'll engrave your alias on ammunition and try to say the case is cold before Allah can raise your soul. But in these days, just know that his last breaths and his last steps never ended at the ballroom. February 21st was yet another pit stop in Harlem, as it was in Detroit, Chi-Town, Boston, same as Nigeria, Egypt, Ghana, Slauson. You can still feel the Malcolm in all of them. We take our lead from the prince, and then we breathe for the prince. His single pursuit was Haq, and we've been breathing it since. So send salutations to the man who died 3 times over, first as an outcast, second as a prisoner, third time as a soldier, who saw his people being crushed by the weight of the world, and then placed it on his shoulders. See, something happened in that prison that's crafted every instance when a soul realizes the reality of living within this gap that we are given, that we'd been masterfully hidden from the light of his dominion. And once that veil has been lifted, There's not a colonizer alive that can extinguish this flame. Severing 1,000 tongues won't make us relinquish his name. Don't let one ear of our children not hear about the man among men, about those towering shoulders as we stand upon them. Today, we let our prayers of forgiveness land upon him, because he taught us to love ourselves. That every hourglass's sands have one end. Shabazz gave us everything he had. His darkness, his light, his love, his life. And though our people still march through the night, though there are far more waters to wade in, we are armored for the fight. We are illuminated by his soul. We are awakened by his rage. And it was all written in gold with dried ink upon the page. Let the world forever know, from every sinner to every sage, that merely his body was taken on that stage. Audubon.